Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Plan B Success. Today, we have a special guest all the way from Florida, Paul Rosenberg. Paul's an author, a speaker, a consultant with Fortune 500 companies, helping them with their growth strategy and other things, and also a coach, a leadership coach. He's been doing it for a pretty long time, and he's been very successful at it. So welcome, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. When did you begin your journey? How did you come about to who you are today?
Oh, that's it's been a long journey because I'm an old guy. I think things started when I was a young man. I began to travel the world from the age of 21. Went off to India and lived there for a while and did some legal aid work there. And as I traveled and saw different cultures and interacted with people all over the world, this common kind of thread began to form about who we are, how we interact, and how we execute our daily work. And so from that kind of formed the basis for me being a coach. I've done a lot of different jobs and learned a lot from each of them. So there's a blessing and a curse there, is when people say, well, what's your expertise? The expertise really is about being a human being and behavior. I haven't, spent 30 years in one sector, in one industry. In fact, I've worked all over the world in a variety of industries. And the other thread that kind of formed that coaching and that focus on connecting with people, which is really important to me, is that I also am a former stand-up comic and improvisational actor. And that necessity to connect with the audience gave me some great tools in the business world in terms of how to get people aligned with you quickly, how to overcome obstacles, and to move forward in a more productive way.
So who are you offering these leadership coaching services to? Do you work with companies or individuals too?
I work with individuals and I work with companies large and small. So my focus really, as I said, is on the behavioral side of things. So there's great technology out there. There are great machines out there. There's great processes out there. But all of those things have to be implemented by human beings. So what I see is that a lot of companies see the investment in those things as important, but they think that takes care of it. Oh, we've got the new machine. We've got the new analytics. We've got the latest. But they don't focus on the fact that it's the human beings who have to touch those processes or execute or manage those pieces of equipment, that's where the value is going to be leveraged from the human side, not from the process or technology side.
And how do your customers or prospects find you?
Usually through word of mouth, and LinkedIn's been very good. As far as the social media platforms that we're all on, that's been the best. You have to be on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. But my view is that LinkedIn has been a great community because it's authentic. It's not how many followers do I have, but it's really what's the quality of those connections. And I've met a lot of wonderful people who have turned out to be partners with me. I've met clients that way. And so that's kind of, so word of mouth, and I'd say LinkedIn is probably the most fruitful of the platforms that I'm on.
What kind of work are you doing with companies?
Again, the focus is behavioral, and for me, it's all about performance. So when somebody hires me, it's not about, well, we want to change the culture. Nobody talks that way. They say we need to improve our performance. For me, there's a direct link between changing the culture and behavior and performance. So my focus always is, how do we improve performance? Is it quality? Is it productivity? Is it margin? I've worked a lot of projects where it's just, hey, help us improve our margin. But the vehicle for that is the coaching of those individuals and the coaching of the team. And I can always draw, when people say, well, how do I know it's successful, it's because you'll see the numbers move in the direction that you want them to. And that's the clear link that I have to make, is that, yeah, it's nice that you're doing this to have a wonderful culture, but it's a business. And so those things aren't exclusive of each other. We can change the culture, have it be sustainable, have it be ethical, and also make some money as well. There's nothing wrong with both of those things coexisting together.
Absolutely. So, you've done this for quite some time now. So, do you see a difference from generation to generation, especially now it's all about the millennials? So, what do you see in terms of the difference in acceptance of coaching versus the kind of things that they're looking to learn versus what you saw in previous generations?
Well, I think the millennials, they have there's two aspects I've seen. One is that incredibly focused on sustainability and community and willing to take more risks. I think they're more creative that way. I've also dealt with some millennials who are so self-centered and focused on them that it's very hard for them to break out of that, and it creates some obstacles for them in interacting with the older generation that they're working with. So there's that conflict there of the old folks, or the old wise ones, and the young ones. But I think honestly, both of those groups can give each other so much if they just allow that space to happen, because there is higher risk taking, from my view, more creative, but there also is less patience, right? For some of them, they just, if things don't work out, they move on to the next. And so I kind of see those as potential constraints, but nothing that we can't overcome together.
Is most of your coaching in person? Is it person to person?
Yes, absolutely. That's how I like to work. I do some distance coaching, which is fine via the web, but I like to be on site. I like to be hands-on, and I'm kind of embedded with whoever I'm working with, so I can react immediately. For me, the power of the coaching is that it's immediate. There's immediate feedback. There can be immediate adjustments, just like a baby walking, and mom and dad and aunts and uncles are like, "Oh, you did so well." There's that immediate feedback, and that accelerates that baby walking really quickly. So for me, for my clients who want to walk quickly, I find that it's just so much better to be there. That way I can observe, I can jump in if I see something, I can give feedback immediately, and we can make that adjustment in real time.
So is it mostly custom coaching, or do you have any standard programs that you have built as well?
I have a bunch of things in my toolkit, but for me, I don't do cookie cutter. Every client is different. I get to know the client, get to know the personalities, and figure out that best path forward. Now, sometimes something emerges. We'll agree that this is going to be the path, and then 2 weeks later, as we're all in this dynamic business world that changes so quickly, it's like, oh, forget about that. We need to go do this. And that's the power of being there, is to be able to make those adjustments. But yes, I do have foundational things that I have in my back pocket, but there isn't a standard program. Every client that I've worked with has different needs, and it depends on their needs, and it depends on the effectiveness of the team and the personalities on site. So I always try to show them what's in the toolkit and let them choose with me. Let's use this tool and that tool and that tool, and leave the rest. Otherwise, it's a waste of energy and resources, from my view.
You've trained a lot of people, you've coached a lot of people, you've had a full career where you've been coaching. What do you think it is that differentiates you from everyone else?
Well, I think a couple of things is that I have the blessing and the curse, which I talked about, which is that I've seen a variety of industries. I'm not an expert in any one industry, but kind of an expert on human behavior. So I bring with me that kind of global experience of over 30 years. I've been in all kinds of situations, and that kind of helps me accelerate with my clients. And the second thing is that, I like to think that, I'm a good partner. I connect well, I listen well. And so that Plus, I'm fun to work with, the comedy stuff. The teams enjoy working with me. That's my stage now. I don't get in front of a mic anymore, but it's my way of kind of moving them forward. So it's really about that authentic approach with my clients that they like, and that it's secondly connected to performance. It's not touchy-feely kind of stuff. It really is, hey, if you engage me and we engage together, because the client has to commit to that as well. I can't coach people who don't want to be coached. I have ways to move them forward, but at the end of the day, if they're going to go like this, then they're going to go like this, and the train will leave the station without them. So there's a track record there of a good return on investment as well.
So when you look back at all your coaching experience, has there been someone, a company or an individual that's been pretty challenging? Does anything come to mind in terms of a challenge that really tested you and that you turned around?
Yeah, there's a few of them. I'll give you an example of one. This is a company in Chile, a very large company that made remanufactured wood products. Their market collapsed overnight. They lost 30% of their market. It's a commodity, so the price dropped. They had to lay off 30% of their workforce. This is a plant that was the only major employer in the community. So you're talking about a devastating effect, not just on the employees, but on their families. And this was a Chilean company, and they're very old style, right? There was a union, there were issues. It was El Jefe, you follow what we do. And the plant manager got a call from the director, and the director said, hey, if you don't make break even by the end of the year, in 6 months, we're going to shut the place down. So at that moment, I was on site, figure out a way to change how we did everything. And a lot of these workers had an 8th grade education. So for them to talk about millions of Chilean pesos, it wouldn't work. They don't even have that concept, like millions of Chilean pesos that we had to generate. Everything had to become about value. And out of that crisis, they did a lot of things differently. They communicated with the workforce. They had training for the folks who were laid off. They went to the workers and they said, which was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard anybody say. The plant manager said, we don't have the answer. We have to find the answer together, versus the old El Jefe, I know what I'm doing and you just follow orders. So it was a dramatic moment when he said that, and the workforce was like, okay. And they all worked together. They had meetings every week. They worked on things together. End of the year, they finished at $250,000 in the black. And it changed how they did business. They got through the crisis. They hired everybody back. And to this day, they're still using the new way. They didn't go back to the old way. And so me, that's the power of making a conscious decision to bust those paradigms that we all put on ourselves, those obstacles that say, we can't do this, we can't make this happen, and say, let's do something different and see what happens. And what happened is a transformation of their whole organization. So.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Let me ask you something else about yourself, right? You've been coaching others, you've been actually trying to put them on the right track. Have there been pivotal moments in your own life, whether it's a low point or a high point, that has actually taught you something and moved you along?
Yeah, I'll give you one example. This was in a shipyard, a very, blue collar shipyard, actually in Newport News. And it was the first week on the job, and I was talking to somebody who was a welding supervisor. He'd been there for years, old crusty guy, just a real pain in the neck. And I was saying, let's start the coaching, and I'm going to be your coach. And he basically said, F you, and he spit on me. And at that moment, I was aghast. But in my mind, I knew that if I reacted the way he wanted me to, I would lose everything. And so by taking that moment to reflect and I just stood still, he walked away and I stood still with the spit on my face. And I just said, okay, what has to happen here? And what came to me in that moment of reflection that I don't think we don't do that enough is take that moment. I knew that I had to find a way to find value for him. I knew that he was scared. I knew that he was leaving in a year, that he had no incentive to work with me, but I knew I had to find a way to add value. So I went up to him a couple of days later. I said, hey, can I just watch you talk to your crew? Brilliant supervisor with the crew, but struggling with the numbers, as a lot of them do, struggling with the performance indicators. And I said, John, can I help you with the performance indicators? You were brilliant. And he said, yeah, help me with that. We never became best friends. We never shared donuts together. But that moment to me was about, okay, I need to find a way to add value to my client. And the second lesson I learned was I need to take a deep breath and reflect before I act. That power of going inward and just going, okay, the world demands that we're responding, and the phones, oh, I got 20 likes on my LinkedIn article, and it's all coming at us. And my view is I learned stop, breathe, take that 5 minutes or that hour, whatever you need, make the right decision, not just any decision.
Awesome. Coming back to that thought where you're talking about, where technology is playing such an integral part of the way we do business today, and the onus on AI, artificial intelligence, that coming on board, the fear that people are going to lose jobs as a result of that, computers are becoming more and more smarter than people. What do you have to say in terms of the changes that we're seeing in terms of technology, and what do you think, where does that human behavior and the intrinsic dependency on humans and their behavior lie?
That's the $1 million question, right? But here's my view on it. Talk to a lot of, digital experts and AI experts. My view is this. It's here. It's not going away. Use it if you're going to use it. In other words, if you have it in your organization, then leverage it. Most leaders that I work with, as you mentioned, they're afraid of it. They don't understand it. They're just checking the box, or they leave it to their IT folks to deal with it. And then you're not getting the benefit out of it. To me, analytics is only as good as the person making a decision based on it. The computer can give you any number of numbers, but at the end of the day, if I'm not using those analytics to make a better decision, then it's not serving me at all. I'm spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on what? On the latest, greatest that I'm not using to its full potential. So that's my view, and I share this view, as I said, with some folks who are brilliant in this area. My view is if you have it, get over your fear, embrace it, and learn how to use it. The analytics must serve you, not you serve the analytics. The technology must serve you, not you serve the technology. The tail can't wag the dog, but most of us, because we're afraid of it as leaders, we let it go and wash our hands of it, and it can do serious damage if we don't understand who's the priority in that relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your books. When did you become an author? What kind of books have you written? What are they all about?
Well, I've only written one book. It's called Rogue Leadership: Harnessing Headwinds to Drive Performance. And the book really is about those 35 years in all those industries and the mistakes I still see leaders making. I wrote it not to be a panacea. I wrote it with a lot of stories, about the journey, and hopefully that people can glean from that. So rogue leadership really is a concept of backing away from the noise and really simplifying things, how we communicate, simplifying how we connect, forget those emails. Go talk to somebody for 5 minutes and have it be a purposeful conversation, not just show up and be visible. It really is about stepping back from all of that. Going rogue, in my view, is not buying into what the world is demanding of us as leaders, what we think the world demands of us, and go simple, go inward, go back to the humanness of us all and those connections, and that's going to add you the performance value that you need. So the whole book really is about that focus. It's fun because you know me, like I said, I'm a comic, so lots of funny stories, and that was just my way of saying, hey, here's what I've been through, having lived on every continent except Antarctica, and having worked in almost every major industry there is. Here's what I've seen, and people are responding well to it. So
That's pretty
it's good.
awesome. I have a few questions for you, Paul. I'm just going to go ahead and ask and tell me whatever
Fire away.
comes into your mind. What are you most thankful for in your life so far?
Well, first and foremost, my family, and I've had this amazing life so far where it started in India. I've lived all over the world. I've had the opportunity to be a creative, be on stage as well. It's been a really interesting life that I never expected. And I've had a lot of great teachers along the way, every step of the way. So that's kind of what I'm grateful for. It's been good so far.
And what are you most scared of?
Most scared of? Hmm. Aside from not getting 1,000 likes on my Instagram post, I'm scared of us losing that human connection. I'm scared about something that is so important and right in front of us that generally, as a planet, because I consider myself a global citizen, that we don't see that. And it's cliche, but it's true that we have so much more in common than divides us, and that we lose that understanding of the connection we all have.
What are you most happy about?
Oh, just waking up every day. Yeah. I mean, good to be alive. And again, my family gives me great joy, and interacting with folks like you give me great joy. So yeah, it's as simple as that. A good laugh.
Awesome. And what are you looking forward to?
I hope, yeah, look forward to having more engaging dialogue and helping more people grow and improve their performance and overcome their obstacles. And I always consider life like a river. I'm very comfortable throwing myself in the middle of the river and seeing where it takes me. So I don't know what's around the bend, and really I'm not worried about it. I'm kind of excited to see where the next flow goes.
And what do you want your legacy to be?
Aside from a good father, husband, grandfather, just that I was a good human being. That I helped and contributed in some way, inspired some people, whatever that is. That the value of my time on Earth is recognized in some way.
That's great, Paul. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure. One last thing that I want to ask you is what is that one takeaway that you would like to leave with our listeners? Anything that you have in terms of advice? At the same time, please also let us know how listeners can get in touch with you, how they can buy your book, look into your courses, other things.
Okay, well, let me do the one thing first, and then we can finish
Sure.
with the rest of it. But the one thing I'd say, and I guess this is from a leadership perspective, is don't take yourself too seriously. Laugh, understand that you're not that important, that you're only going to be as good as the people around you and your connection with them and your ability to work together and just have some fun. In this world, we put so much stress on ourselves, so that would be the one thing is lighten up. Everything's going to be okay. And throw a little play in there every now and then. It's good for you. So that would be the advice. All right.
Awesome.
As far as where people can get in touch with me, www.rosenbergpaul.com is the website. The book is called Rogue Leadership. It's on Amazon worldwide, also Barnes and Noble and Book Depository, which is over in Europe and other parts of the world. Those are the three main places you can get that. And if you want to drop me an email, I'm at paulrosenberg.leadership.biz@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure as well. Thanks for having me.
I hope you liked that episode. Please make sure that you subscribe to Plan B Success on your favorite platform or at planb.live. Do spread the word, do let others know about it so that they may benefit from the content as well. Thank you.